everybody, and welcome to the Multipli Podcast at Multipli Tech. We build custom software, mobile apps, websites, and we provide fractional CTO and AI implementation services. I'm excited today for a great podcast episode where we're joined by Melissa Mills, who is the head of content at Cinematic Health. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am very happy to be here.
Melissa, why don't you dive in and you can share a little bit more about your personal and professional background to start leading into your current role at Cinematic.
Yeah, so I've been a nurse for 27 years. Started out like most nurses do at the bedside, and quickly there was a couple things that happened. One thing is I started to feel like it was very challenging to impact and change the healthcare system working at the bedside, one patient at a time, two patients at a time. And so I left the hospital and went into home care. Fell in love with home care and hospice, spent the majority of my time, went into leadership roles up to director of nursing or director of professional services roles in home care and hospice, and really loved leadership. But also, I think the one thing that I really enjoyed about leadership was being able to invest in staff and train and support them and really point out where they thrive, because a lot of times you don't realize the things you're good at unless somebody says, hey, you're really good at this, right? And so I really enjoyed that side of leadership, but I still felt like there was a little something. I was always total word nerd, loved to write. And that led me into thinking about how do I take my nursing knowledge and couple that with my love of writing. And that led me into curriculum writing. And ultimately, I found startups. And my current role is with Cinematic Health. And I am the head of content. So oversee all of the new content that we make. And Cinematic Health, we were founded in 2018. And we really were founded out of a need for creating curriculum that helps this frontline caregiver, whether it be our first product was for CNAs. We have since launched for HHAs and PCAs. But one of the problems that we see is that a lot of times people don't understand exactly what they're getting into. And so we use a storytelling lens with full-length feature movies that really show the good and the challenges of being a frontline caregiver.
That's amazing, Melissa. I really like this. So diving into a couple things there, 27 years of direct experience in the field. And I think it's so cool. Like, what could be a more perfect role for somebody who has this word nerd background, like you described, plus the practical experience of being on the front lines, not only being there yourself and witnessing some of the highs and lows that can come from servicing patients, being in leadership, which anybody who's a people leader, the level of pressure is just multiplied by a factor of 10,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And you have to deal with your own problems and other people's problems at that point.
Yes.
And then being put in a position where something that you're passionate about, content, marries something that you have a professional background in. I think it's really cool that it seems like the Cinematic leadership team, it wasn't just a tech company that was started for the sake of becoming an ed tech company. It was a tech company that was founded by people and is led by people who have the practical hands-on experience to know the problem that they're solving firsthand.
Absolutely. So one of our founders was an administrator in a nursing home, and that was really what motivated him to start looking at ways to elevate the curriculum for these essential workers, right? I think a lot of times you think, oh, you go into the hospital for nursing, and you do. You go to hospitals, you go to nursing homes, you know, even home care, it's for nursing care. But CNAs, home health aides, and patient care aides are an extension of that nurse. And if you have a good CNA or home health aide that is working alongside of you, as a nurse, you can relax because you know that patient is being watched, their observations, they're listening to what that patient says and then reporting that back to the nurse. And so they really are such an integral part of the care team that we really don't talk about all that often.
Absolutely, right? Like any company that's trying to make decisions strictly at the executive level in the ivory tower of theory versus getting the frontline voice of people who are working with your patients every day, like that's going to create disalignment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because obviously right now, like I've told you separately, Melissa, right now on the Multipli podcast, we're specifically focused these past couple months here on working with leaders, owners, executives in the in-home care, home health, senior living type connected verticals. And a consistent problem that I'm hearing from a lot of people is one of the biggest challenges that people have is a people problem, right? It's finding the right caregivers. It's not just recruiting the right caregivers, but it's
Yep.
also retaining them. It's
Yeah.
helping them prevent burnout, helping them with issues of like, hey, what happens when my patients call out, right? Like my patients aren't available, never mind my personal schedule and availability, but what happens when the number one patient I was working with no longer is in the system anymore, right? And just finding some of these matching issues tiered with sometimes lower pay scales. I think that it's awesome. It sounds like, from what I can understand, Cinematic Health, you can help on both the front end side from a recruiting perspective for companies that use you and on the back end retention side because you're more appropriately equipping people for the journey that's ahead.
Absolutely. And what we do a lot of times is we work with facilities, agencies who maybe they have never trained before or they've thought about training their own, because it is a pipeline issue, right? There's not enough people out there to fill all of the positions. And so, think about the mom who has, finally all the kids are back to school and she's looking for something to do, or older adults who are like, I'd really like to, maybe I'm getting close to retirement. I really would like to give back and do something where I'm caring for someone. You find those people and then you train them and really control your own pipeline yourself. And we help you every step of the way. It's not just, hey, here's your curriculum, go have fun, but we are right there through getting state approved if that is something that has to happen. Our customer success team is right there to help through every step of the way to make sure that you understand where maybe your students are getting stuck in the content and how to help them on the state exam. Like, we help with the whole thing. And it is so true that especially in home care and hospice as well, finding the right staff is a huge, huge issue. And if you can train them the way you want them to work from the very beginning, they're not coming to you with bad habits. They're not coming to you with, things that were past agencies or facility policies, but they're really coming to you for that training and to know exactly how you want them to perform that job. A lot of times it is a better fit and they do retain. We also, 92% of our partners say that Ready CNA trained CNAs outperform others in the first 3 months. And so that's on our CNA product side. But 92% feel that CNA who's seen that movie, watched the realities come to life, and they feel like, wow, they do so much better because they understand what they're getting themselves into. That's really powerful.
Absolutely. My next question here, after I ask this question, is going to be help us really dive into some of the product offerings that you have and who specifically you're targeting, Melissa. But coming back to this video here, right? I think it's so cool that you train people through the power of stories. So much more powerful than just reading a textbook, right? In the world that we live in, people they don't want to just consume content. They want to consume it in a way that's entertaining, memorable, engaging, and is going to be triggered when a situation that's relevant comes up in real life. So
yeah.
Going back to what you mentioned, and as I've been talking to owners and founders in the space, nobody gets into this industry just because of money. There's plenty of ways to make money. People get into this industry because they care about making a difference and truly servicing people.
Yeah.
So going back to that mom in season 2 of Life, or maybe a more senior person who just wants to give back to somebody who's a decade down the road from them while they still can help. They go in with the heart to help. What are some of the types of challenges that they may not be expecting that Ready CNA or a product like that helps them prepare for, that can become real triggers, real burnout causes within the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that we show through the movie is how to handle de-escalation. You have somebody who maybe they have dementia, Alzheimer's, and there's agitation, frustration going on. How do you take that person and de-escalate everything? You can read in a book that you need to slow your words or lower your voice or take a step back, but to see that in action, and then when you experience it in the field, being able to be like, oh, I remember when the CNA or the home health aide in that movie that I watched, I remember how they went through that and navigated through that situation to help that resident or client. It's really powerful. We also show them what it is like to care for someone who is dying, how you navigate through some uncomfortable family situations, especially in home care. That happens a lot. You're in someone else's home and every single one of us have a different lifestyle, right? And so it may not be something you're used to. And how do you navigate through those situations? Discrimination. We and sexual aggression. We really try to dive into those challenging topics that they likely will go through.
That's so helpful, because again, I'm just thinking through the lens of a well-meaning person who wants to make a difference, like all of us are wired to deep down on the inside, that may just not be appropriately equipped. And right, maybe if I'm a leader of a home health company and I'm just desperate to try to put somebody on staff just because like I have a short-term need, it's easy as an owner, not even out of ill will, to just focus on some of the short-term gaps that you have and just trying to like provide a quick fix, a band-aid, rather than like actually allowing a wound to heal, actually creating a solution for the problem, right? So it sounds like your team, you guys are building content that really addresses the big picture need here. Tell us more specifically about some of like these product offerings that you have and who specifically you guys are targeting right now.
So, like I said, we do have products for Ready CNA. Then we have Ready HHA, which is our home health aid product. And then Ready Caregiver, which is for personal care aides. And so our content is for initial training. It is not continuing ed. So it's for, whether that be a long-term care company, a proprietary school, a college, or a home health aid agency or home care agency that's wanting to train their own. We have all of that initial content. It is state specific. We make sure that it meets all of the state regulations. So it really takes that lift off of your owner operator to be thinking about how do I even start to train my own staff? We have all of that prepared, ready to go, is fully integrated and ready. It's on our LMS. There's programs, there's reporting. So everything that you need to really be able to dive in and see how your learners and students are going through the content, we have the full package.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And again, what's the alternative? Like, what are competitors in the space doing, or what are companies that haven't discovered cinematic health yet? What are they doing to try to solve this problem as of right now?
Yeah, so it's funny. Our biggest competitor is a textbook. Many still go back to textbooks and all in person, in a classroom for that 75 hours to become a CNA or that 60 hours to become a home health aide. But so many states, because of COVID, now allow you to do it through a hybrid format. And so really what this does is it frees up from having a nurse instructor in front of a group of 10, students at a time. And it allows them to work on their own. They can work from home or they can work in your office, whatever, that agency or facility is most comfortable with. But they can go through that content by themselves with a nurse being available for questions. And then they just have to come in to do their lab and clinical experiences, again, depending on the state and the product. But it really allows you to optimize your training staff or your educator to where they're not stuck in a room all the time, just, repeating the same information to a new group of students.
Amazing. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, obviously, one of the reasons that we started the podcast, Multipli Tech, being a tech company, we always like to hear, as we're talking to leaders, like, what are they seeing in the space in terms of innovation from a marketing, from a tech, from a infrastructure AI perspective? Like, what are you guys talking about at Cinematic, and what are you seeing that's kind of like in the air on the roadmap for you guys right now?
Yeah, I think you would have to not be listening or reading anything to not be thinking about AI when it comes to healthcare. That is such a big, big area that I think most companies are looking at, and really how you can leverage that within our company. And I find it very interesting how healthcare systems are using it and leveraging it as well. And, how to optimize and just be more efficient with your workflow and work processes. I think AI can totally take like the cognitive load off so that you can really do more in a shorter amount of time just by, utilizing those resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And right now that's something that Multipli is really starting to hone in on. And coming alongside, especially SMBs, growth stage startups.
Yeah,
Again, people don't get into, I want to start my own home care business because I had an experience with my mom or my grandma that led me to want to make things better. They don't get into it to have to become a marketing or a tech genius, right?
absolutely.
And depending upon the pace at which people grow, a lot of times, rather than bringing in a brand new team member, it can make sense to just hire a professional to come alongside of them and say, hey, let's work together for the next handful of months on some type of fractional basis. Let's evaluate and audit your existing tech and marketing systems. Let's make some recommendations and let's implement AI, not just because it's the shiny buzzword, right? And everybody wants to like not get behind with AI, not be replaced with AI. What we tell people right now, like kind of what we say at Multipli is let's let tech do what tech can do so that people can do what only people can do. And I really
Absolutely.
can't think of an industry that better connects with that than healthcare, right? Where what can only people do? Only people can provide a level of care and provide a spirit level connection. Tech will never be able to do that, or I hope not at least, right? So
Absolutely.
let's let people like free up some of that bandwidth with the administrative task, with bringing in new clients, everything from like lead generation all the way to like back end systems and synchronizing things. That's the goal that we have when we work with companies from a tech basis. So that's cool that you guys are innovating. What are you most excited about at Cinematic as a leadership team right now? What's on the docket or the roadmap for
Yeah.
what's to come?
Growth, right? We are definitely in that growth phase. We're trying to expand, we're trying to scale, get into new states, and really help our clients scale as well. You know, a lot of times we'll have contracts and partnerships with multi-site facilities, but yet they're only training at maybe one of their 10 or 15 facilities. And how can we help them to expand as well? So it's all about growth for us right now.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So as the head of content, if I'm a leader in the space, right, and we're connecting with a lot of them, even just through this podcast series, what's the best way to get in touch with you or with the team at Cinematic to learn more about what you do, Melissa?
Yeah, probably the best way to get in touch with someone is to go to our website, cinematichealtheducation.com. There you can look through our trailers, you can see our content, you can sign up for our free product so that you can actually see some of the stories and some of the other content that we have. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Melissa, the question I want to close with here, and I'm sure with 27 years of nursing experience, you could take this both ways and feel free to share maybe one or two testimonials. As I'm talking to leaders in the space, you can't survive in this space long term unless you have some why power, right? It has to be
Yeah.
bigger than just you. So whether it's from your nursing days, ideally if it's like a client testimonial, share a win that's kept you going along the years that like really speaks to what Cinematic is doing and the need in the space right now.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of times, again, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, we don't really think about the impact that a CNA or home health aide, that frontline direct care worker, what they can have. And while I was in nursing school, I also worked as a CNA when I was in my early part of my nursing school. And that was when I honestly felt like I was giving the most back because I was right there at the bedside. You know, I was listening, I was talking to them. Yeah, I was doing the personal care tasks, but you know, if you can't bathe yourself or feed yourself, or, you know, you need assistance going to the bathroom, having someone who can do that and still provide you with privacy and dignity, that is such a powerful thing because we're connecting as humans. And so as I went through my career, I really started to think about when I felt happiest and when I felt like I was giving the most back. And it was definitely when I was a CNA and in other like frontline hands-on roles. And that was when I really started to think, I want to do something to help other people be able to achieve that as well and be able to become caregivers. Because I think until you go through that and you start to really care for someone else, you don't understand how powerful that can be. And yes, it is also challenging. It's hard, but I can remember going to homes when I was when I was a home health nurse. I can remember going to homes thinking that I was there to help them. And I walked out feeling so blessed and so just happy that I was there, part of their life and part of their family. And that's what I want to help other people to be able to do through our content.
That's awesome. You just said it. Like what was coming to mind is like, you're so much more than just a home help aide. You're literally an extension of their family at that
Yeah,
point.
you are. You
So being
absolutely
trained,
are.
feeling equipped, feeling ready to best serve, because that's what you got into it to do in the first place. That's such a big part of it. And it's clear that Cinematic Health, that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our goal.
That's amazing, Melissa. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on with us today. We're excited for this episode to be shared. And I hope that it will be a great way for you to pick up some new business. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your experience along the years.
Thank you.